Hey everybody out there, my name is Tommy, and this is my channel, Counting on the Big Sleep. Age 58, looking forward to retirement someday, but I wanted to come on and let you know this is going to be a different series, starting a little series, a little diary series, my origin, you know, certain passages in life of what have happened to me and, you know, where I've headed so far and how I got to where I am. So, the first thing I want to start off with is I was born in 1967, July 5th. Little town called Blue Island, Illinois, over here close to Chicago. Lived in Illinois most of my life, Indiana a little bit. Actually, I lived everywhere. Wisconsin once, you know, but that's a different story. But like I said, 1967, July 5th. I had four brothers and three sisters. One brother was handicapped; he had cerebral palsy. But that's part of everybody. We had big people. There was a lot of people. Lived in it was a big blue house. My dad was some sort of truck driver, and my mom was a hillbilly woman. We were definitely hillbilly people. That's no for sure. Back then, it's okay, It's okay to say those things now, even though it's not politically correct. But yeah, we were hillbillies. That's for sure. Age 4, my brother was killed. His name was Roger. Um, don't know much about him. He was hit by a car, killed. I remember reading in the paper years later about it. I know, I know we went to the funeral and everything, but I didn't know him that well. At 4 years old, I probably didn't know any of my brothers and sisters that well, at 4. But he was hit by the car, and I don't think much happened to the driver. Crossing the street, guy was turning, going quickly, probably a little too quickly, because hit him pretty hard. Because I remember they saying they knocked his shoes off and stuff, and killed him instantly. But I don't remember that guy going to prison or anything about it. Yeah. I don't remember reading anything about that. That was a long time ago. That would have been maybe like 71, maybe 71, and that would take me about 4 years old, 67. Around there, around 71, 72. And I was probably around 4 years old. A year later, my old man died. He had lung cancer. He passed away. I remember going to his funeral. Um, and then, about within a year, my mom sold the house, and my sisters went one way, and my brothers went the other way. And my one handicapped brother, he went into a nursing home for a short time. He was in there. But I remember our first apartment was called, I want to say, it wasn't Cabrini Green. I keep on thinking it was something green, though. Something called Green. I think it was in like Palos Heights or something, you know. But it weren't the best apartments in the world. A little apartment. Couple upstairs. People upstairs was two black kids. They were my very first friends, Eric and Derek. Their mother was a bigger, heavier set woman, but there was no father in the home. I didn't see any father, and she worked. And they were older than me at the time. I probably was around 6, going on 7. They were probably at least about 9, 10. Maybe even a little older, but they were cool guys. But the one thing they emphasis on was don't piss off mom. That's the thing they emphasized a lot, because they argued in the hall one time, and the other one was just begging the other one, "Don't argue, don't fight, don't argue, don't fight," you know. And his ma yelling. Oh man, she heard him, and then all hell broke loose. They got their ass beat. But that they were good guys. Good guys. I played with them. I spent the night at their house. They spent the night at my house. They were all right. They were all right kids. Played in the hallways and stuff like that. And we played baseball outside too. We did that. And then about a year after that, we moved to another place, different town. Moved into Oak Lawn, into a little garage apartment. Uh, with the neighbor kid, he was much older than I was, and he was even creepier than you can imagine. Lived there for um, maybe a year. No, I'm talking going about 9 years old probably now. So now I'm about 8 to 9. You know, this creepy kid lives next door, and it's taking me for. I have a dog, so we're taking the dog for a walk at nighttime, and he's telling me, weird sexual crap, you know, you know, and like I knew it, when I was younger, there was like an instinct of people. I just didn't want to be around them, I knew if I was polite to them, they would be not polite to me usually, but I didn't want to be around them, you know. But we moved out of there within a year. He got kicked out of his home eventually and ran away. There was something going on in his house. I don't know what the fuck was going on. So then probably really around I don't know 9, I want to say, moved somewhere else, and then my one brother came back to live with us, and helped take care of him. And he went to school too. He was handicapped. He had cerebral palsy. And so my sisters and stuff, they lived somewhere else, and then my brothers lived somewhere else. Everybody was kind of gone, and except for my brother Wayne. Eventually, he came and lived with us too. But we would move just about every year until they even bought a house. My mom bought several houses actually. She'd buy a house and then she'd sell a house. She would never make any money, or she would just lose the house. Because she would come up with houses. I don't know how. I can't figure that one out either. Till the day she died, she had bought so many houses and lived in a house, and then she would sell it. Not really make a profit or anything. Just I don't know. But that's part of my origin story. How I grew up. Uh, we ran wild in the streets. There was really no rules. We didn't do a lot of damage or destruction, but we ran wild. That's for sure. We climbed trees. We played in the parks. We swam in other people's pools that weren't even home. If you knew the neighbor guy wasn't home and he had a pool, he's like, "Hey man, we're going to the pool." you know, or we'd swim in the gullies. There was a big gully back there, a water treatment facility, I think it was, or something. They had a like, big old lake-ish like pond, but it was huge, and we would swim in there too sometimes. You'd see kids walking down the highway, not the highway, but the busy street with a towel and their swim trunks, and you'd be like, "What the fuck is that guy going? Ain't no fucking pool around here." And then you think about it, oh yeah, the gully over here. Went there a few times. I not much really liked it too much. It was kind of, you had to sneak through a fence. You get caught, you get in trouble, but nobody really cared. But I just didn't like it. I didn't want to swim in some kind of waters. I heard people drown. They always tell you horror stories. You know. So from about 9, I think I can't remember what grade I'd be in. At that time because I started school late. I think I broke my leg when I was probably like around 5. Probably before. Yeah, I think right before the old man died. Broke my leg, and I stayed home an extra year. I didn't go to kindergarten, and I think I was about 8 years old when I started first grade, and I hated school. After not being in school for about 8 years, because you start when you were 5, right? 5 was kindergarten, I believe, and then 6 was first grade. So I would have probably been around 7 years old when I started first grade. Around 7, somewhere around there. I don't know. So much things back then happened so fast. I can't even say my mom lived a whole year at one place. I mean, we moved around so much. But that's just a bit of my childhood. How we survived back then in the early 70s. If you see this video, tell me how you survived. How was your childhood? Compare some stories to what we did. Because, like I said, we ran wild. Not like the kids today, they're all stuck inside. We were just, different breed. That's all I can say. But this is diary number 1, early age. Maybe I'll do a diary 2 and tell you what happens after, 8 years old. The horror stories that come with that. If I get enough views, I'll tell that one. I'll continue. But I just wanted to come on and tell you my origin story. And what I'm trying to do with this channel is just do some vlogs, be honest about things, tell you how I see things. Sometimes it's not so good, how things happen. Sometimes, you'd be surprised. Alright, everybody. Thanks for listening. I've been on it long enough. Talk to you soon. Bye.